Hi everyone, today we are going to be talking about the electromagnetic spectrum. Now there are 7 main components in the electromagnetic spectrum. There are gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet waves, visible light, infrared waves, microwaves, and radio waves. You can see over here that basically all of these are kind of just different forms of light, but only the middle one is visible light. Therefore, you can consider all the rest of this light that you cannot see, or invisible light. Differ by one key thing, which is the wavelength. Okay, for example, the gamma rays have very small wavelength, while the radio waves have quite large wavelengths, up to the hundreds of kilometers. Within visible light itself, there are 7 colors. Like the little band that we had over here, you can split these into 7 different colors. And these 7 colors are violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. You move in this direction from gamma rays to radio waves, the wavelength is increasing. At first it's very short, a fraction of a nanometer, up to a few kilometers for radio waves. However, with increasing wavelength, there is also a decreasing frequency. So the gamma rays would have the highest frequency, while the radio waves would have the lowest frequency. Because frequency is associated with energy, therefore the gamma rays would have the highest energy, and the radio waves would have the lowest energy. Therefore, from gamma rays to radio waves, it will also decrease in energy. Now, some of you may ask, how can I memorize the 7 components of the EM spectrum easily? It's pretty difficult. There are 7 different ones, and I need to memorize them in the order that they are given. Now, the best way to do this is what we call mnemonics. Mnemonics is an easy way to memorize a series of things in order by using the first letter of each word. And when we take the first letter of each word and form a sentence using it. Now, let's give it a try. Now I've arranged them in order from radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. So the letters that are in front of each are R, M, I, V, U, X, G. Now, the best mnemonic is one you can create yourself. However, now I can give you what I feel would be an easy mnemonic using these. However, remember that if you can find an easier mnemonic to remember this by, then by all means, please use it. So, this is what I could use. I imagine a soldier fighting in the war in Vietnam. So, the one that I use will be this. Real men in Vietnam use extra guns. So, in my mind, perhaps people who go to war in Vietnam, they are probably going to have a very tough time. So, in order to make the time easier, they will have to use extra guns in order to fight better. So I like to remember this image. It's quite a popular image of a soldier which is carrying many weapons quite dramatically. Then I use this image and think about real men in Vietnam use extra guns. So it's easy for me to remember R, M, I, V, U, X, G, and therefore recall the previous 7 words in order. Now, besides remembering them in order, we should also remember which one has highest wavelengths and which one has highest frequencies. So, I've arranged them in this way so that I can remember that the first one has the highest wavelength. Therefore, the R for radio has the highest wavelength, and it goes all the way back down to the lowest wavelength, which is the gamma. So, in inverse proportion to the wavelength is the frequency. Therefore, if the gamma has the lowest wavelength, it should also have the highest frequency. And therefore, we can from that extrapolate, and the radio should have the lowest frequency. Now you can ask, how can I memorize the 7 colors of visible light easily? You also have to memorize them all in order, and also which one has the highest wavelength, which has the highest frequency. So, how do we do it? Easily by mnemonics again. Basically, we have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Arranged it like this once again so that I can have the same thing as the previous mnemonic, which is the first one has the highest wavelength, and so on and so on. Okay, but however, what's the easiest mnemonic that I will use with this? So going again with the Vietnam War theme, I found the easiest way would be to have this in my mind, which is I use ROY as a word, which is a man's name, and I use the rest as gave birth in Vietnam. So this puts an image into my mind which is not very pleasant at all, which is the image of a man giving birth in Vietnam. And if any of you think that perhaps it's too disgusting or it's too creepy, remember that the best mnemonics are those that you can recall and remember very well. And therefore, ROYGBIV, and I can recall red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Let's talk about some properties of EM waves. What types of waves are they? They are transverse waves. They require a medium to travel through? Answer is no. What speeds do EM waves travel in a vacuum? They would travel at the speed of light, which is 3 times 10 to the power of 8 meters per second, or 300 million meters per second. Then, do they obey all the laws of reflection and refraction just like light rays? The answer is yes. Now, does the speed vary as they pass through different materials? In the previous chapter light, you were taught that when the light passes from a vacuum into, let's say, a piece of glass, the speed will actually decrease. Does this apply as well to light that we can't see? The answer is yes. Obey all the light equations. They will also obey the wave equations that you learned in the wave chapters in chapter 11. V equals to F times lambda. The frequency does not change when the waves go from one medium into another. So, this frequency doesn't change. However, the wavelength can change and the speed can also change.